Hello, welcome back to my world of stuff. Recording this video on Tuesday afternoon, two and a half, 3 days before a new Superman zooms onto our screens. David Corenswet plays the Man of Steel in James Gunn's reboot, reimagining, re-envisioning, whatever you want to call it, of the legendary Superman, the first superhero created way back in the 1930s. He's been on screen more time than I've had hot dinners. Serials that were made in the 1940s and 50s, TV series, umpteen TV series, a long line of films, most recently the DC failed versions starring the excellent Henry Cavill, who to be fair was brilliantly cast. The films didn't really do him justice. DC is now being completely rebooted by James Gunn. But do I really care? Do you really care? Let's talk about this. Hello, welcome back. My name is Paul Mount. Yeah, Superman's back. He's back on screen on Friday, as I mentioned, with the new Superman movie, starring David Corenswet, Rachel Brosnahan, Nicholas Hoult, Nathan Fillion. It's another Superman film, and that is sort of my concern, that it is another Superman film, because Superman hasn't always been particularly well served on the big screen. I think most of us, certainly my generation, will regard Christopher Reeve as Superman. There will never be anybody quite like Christopher Reeve, who portrayed that character with nobility and grace and humour and physicality that's not been matched since. Despite all the various Supermen we've had on TV and film, Christopher Reeve is still the high bar as far as the character is concerned. So James Gunn has been tasked with reinventing DC for the big screen. We all know what's been happening over the last 20 years with the superhero sensations, the superhero film phenomenon that Marvel have, I think, taken to extremes with 30 odd films, varying degrees of success, and they've created a whole new sub-genre of films which has come to dominate the film industry, whatever you think of those films. And I love them, but I am conscious of the fact that they are the predominant genre at the moment. I don't know that that's healthy. DC, I think, made the mistake of trying to run before they could walk. They rushed out a Superman film, and then they did Superman and Batman. They tried to create the Justice League, their version of the Avengers, before they'd properly introduced the other characters. Whereas Marvel took their time, introduced Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, a new version of the Hulk. They built this team over a series of films, over a series of years. DC wanted it all straight away, and they just rushed into it. As a result, not many of the films were very good. DC's track record wasn't terrible. There were some films which I quite liked. I thought that Gal Gadot was fantastic as Wonder Woman in the first Wonder Woman film, directed by Patty Jenkins, but the follow-up, 1984, released straight to streaming, and was dreadful. It was such a disappointment. And there were plans for a third film, but of course that was all nixed when DC decided to reboot itself. I thought Jason Momoa was a perfect Aquaman. Not Aquaman as we've seen him in the comics, a different version of Aquaman, but he had the physicality and the strength, and he played the part really well. And I did enjoy the two Aquaman films. And that's really about it. The rest of DC stuff was pretty forgettable. The Flash was pretty terrible. And it's quite ironic in that there was a lot of fuss, of course, around Ezra Miller's various antics before the film came out. So when the film was released, there was very little in the way of promotion and publicity for it, because it was considered sensible to keep Ezra out of the limelight. It had its moments, but again, it was DC trying to do too much with a new Supergirl. Batman, Michael Keaton, was dragged back into the fray, and it was a mess. There was a Batgirl film, which wasn't even released. And we had Blue Beetle, which I didn't think was a bad film. But again, it was the tail end of DC and nobody really cared very much. So James Gunn is relaunching DC, and he's starting off, where else but with Superman. And the film is due for release in a few days' time. I'm going to see it. I'll be doing an out of theatre reaction on the channel. But I'm not excited for it. There are many reasons for this. Superman is a legendary superhero character. As I said, he's pretty much the first superhero from which all other superheroes sprang. But he's never been my favourite because he's just too damn powerful. It's a bit like Captain Marvel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She can do anything. She has incredible power. She can do anything. She's incredibly strong. And it's always a problem with Superman. Who do you pit him against who's going to be a worthy opponent? The best Superman stories, particularly things like Superman 2, was where he loses his powers and he has to regain his powers. And that was a great film because he was the underdog, fighting to get his strength back, fighting these villains from the Phantom Zone who'd escaped. But otherwise, you've got this character who's so impossibly strong and impossibly powerful. He's got X-ray vision, heat vision, he can fly in space, he's got super speed. I mean, he's everything. And that becomes a challenge, I think, for storytellers to tell a story that makes the character interesting, because you never really worry about him because of his powers. He's pretty much indestructible. My particular concern, however, about this Superman film is that I've seen all the trailers, I've seen some clips and so on, and it looks very overstuffed. There's so many characters in it. There's other characters. I think there's Green Lantern, Hawk Girl, somebody called Mr. Terrific, and of course Lex Luthor as the villain. And I just wonder if this is too overstuffed. I've watched the trailers, as I said, and the trouble is, from the trailers, I've no idea what the story is here. There's no sense of a narrative or a through line. There's something in the background about Superman having lost the public's trust because of various issues that have arisen, and he's trying to defend his position as somebody who saves lives and stops terrible things happening. There seems to be that thing, and I think we had that a bit in Zack Snyder's version, that Superman was not exactly on trial, but under suspicion because people felt that he did more harm than good. That seems to be part of the storyline here. Otherwise, if you look at the trailer, it's just a random amalgamation of scenes. Robots in the Fortress of Solitude, Lex Luthor sneering, people flying through the air, Superman fighting big dragon creatures, Superman stopping things, crushing people, the scenes of Superman being tended to by Krypto the Superdog. It just seems as if James Gunn has grabbed every bit of Superman lore he can and stuffed it all into one film. And you would think that he would perhaps step back and just do a film about Superman himself. Now, we don't want the origins again. We all know about the origins of Superman. We've seen it so many times. The orphan from the planet Krypton who crash lands on Earth. He's looked after by Ma and Pa Kent. Martha and Jonathan look after him. He becomes Superboy, he becomes Superman. We don't want to go through all that again. We know that. It's a bit like the upcoming Fantastic Four. We don't want to go through their origins again because we've had this twice in previous films. And with Spider-Man, we don't need to see Peter Parker bitten by a radioactive spider. We know how this starts. So we can skip all that. So whilst I'm pleased that we're not getting all that stuff again in Superman, I don't get a sense of where this story is heading. I don't get a sense of what the threat is, what the villain is, what the objective is. I don't get the narrative arc. I don't get the 3-arc structure. I don't see where this is going. Now, yes, we've only seen clips, but it does look as if it's been overstuffed with things. Now, I don't know if James Gunn has done that for the fans. I think that's possibly a mistake, because it's a bit like with Doctor Who, when you start throwing in old lore and obscure characters, the public think, it's too much for me, I'm not interested. But if you just have a story with Superman, Clark Kent, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, Perry White, all these familiar Superman characters, and a threat, something that Superman has to fight. But I think if you're filling the film with Krypto the Superdog and robots and all the stuff that we've seen in the trailer, I just think you're over-egging the pudding a little bit. I'm speaking from the perspective now of 3 days away before the films come out, so I don't know what we're going to get. But my initial impressions are it's going to be an overstuffed gourmet meal when perhaps we just needed a little picnic for the first reimagined Superman film. Bring Superman back, but don't give him too much clutter. I may be completely wrong here. This could be a fantastic film that redefines superhero cinema. It's got a job on its hands, mind you, to overcome that very real superhero fatigue that we're seeing. Because this year we have had 2 great Marvel films, and I loved Thunderbolts. I thought that was a terrifically entertaining film, but it really underperformed at the box office. Didn't even take 400 million. Captain America Brave New World, I think, is very good. I watched a bit of that recently on the weekend. It's still such a good film, but it just hobbled over 400 million. So there is superhero fatigue. And it's been argued in the past, is it superhero fatigue, or are we just bored of not very good superhero films? And I think Marvel haven't done the whole genre any favour. All these TV series that they're spewing out. I haven't watched Ironheart. I'm not going to watch Ironheart. I'm not interested in Ironheart. Less is more. And I think that people have reached the point now where they're saying, yeah, we've seen superhero films. Can we have something else? There'll be superhero films, but I don't think we're going to have these outlier type things. I don't think we'd have another Thunderbolts film, because this one didn't do well enough, unfortunately. We'll see those characters again elsewhere, but not necessarily in their own titles. And I do think that superhero cinema should be focusing now on the big characters. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man, the Avengers, the big marquee names that people will go and see. People aren't interested in Blue Beetle. People clearly aren't interested in Thunderbolts. And I hope that people are interested in Superman. Whilst he's not my favourite superhero, you have to accept his place in popular culture. He's a legendary character. And I think it's time that he was done right. Henry Cavill was great casting, but he never had the material he deserved to really show what he could do because of Zack Snyder's very particular dark, grim, moody version of DC, which a lot of people love, but it was clearly not going to be a winner at the box office because the films started off very well and fell off very quickly. So I hope we get a film which is fun, bright and breezy, but I want a good story as well. I don't just want cameo appearances from obscure superhero characters. I don't want nods to things that will make fans go, I get that. I want a film that embraces the ethos of Superman as the man of steel, the man of tomorrow, a proper superhero for our times. Because that's what Superman is. That's what Superman embodies. He embodies the spirit of humanity, even though he's an alien. He is, I suppose, in a very real sense, what all people aspire to being. So I hope that James Gunn has done him justice. I loved James Gunn's Suicide Squad film, Guardians of the Galaxy. The 3 films were near perfect. Number 2 wasn't quite so good. However, he knows his superheroes. He knows the genre. He knows how to make an action superhero film. And I hope he's remembered that we need a good, engaging Superman. But more importantly, for me at least, we need a good, engaging script with a proper story that has a beginning and a middle and an end. So, a couple of days' time, we'll all know. Let me know your thoughts. Are you looking forward to Superman? Or are you superheroed out? Are you thinking, oh, someone else? Please, give me someone else. Are you tired of capes and cowls? Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. If you're going to see Superman, what your hopes and expectations are. And look out for my brief out-of-theatre review, which I'll post as soon as I can on Friday. Right, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little video. Why not like and subscribe to the channel? Loads of stuff to come. Some great retrospective film and TV features to come in the next couple of weeks. So you'd be a fool, an absolute fool, to miss any of it. So like, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Until I do, keep taking the stuff.